So I guess while you're still down there in South America, have you been to any other places in South America? Obviously, you've been to other places, at least within your area in Brazil, but have you been to, I don't know, Colombia or Argentina or some more remote places in South America?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that's kind of one of my bigger regrets. But, being in Dallas, I could always come back. I can always fly back to South America from Dallas for like a 6 or 10 day trip or whatnot, So, but while living down here, I do have regrets about not traveling enough. I visited Brazil 3 times before actually moving down here. And so far in Latin America, I've only been to... I've only been to Southeast and South Brazil, and I've only been to Mexico. And if I had one regret, it would be not going to Argentina. Because I think there's always, I guess with regards to the forum, there's always demand for information on Argentina, and especially for Asian travelers like myself. So, I think one of the contributions I wanted to make was to write a good detailed report about what it was like for an East Asian guy in Argentina, because we don't have any foot on the ground. We don't have any feet on the ground down there, but I guess that means I'll just have to wait till next time, Yeah.
But, nice. So I guess if you were me, you would probably be like, if there was one advice you basically just indirectly told me, it's like, dude, when you're in Eastern Europe or just Europe in general, you should definitely get around and post some stuff on the forum and tell guys, hey, how is it like for a Southeast Asian guy to be in Eastern Europe, other parts of Eastern Europe, and that's some pretty good poignant advice there. I definitely will have to take it up. I've done a bit of posting about Poland and some other places, just short visits, but I haven't really done that. And part of that is also now that I've got a girlfriend, it's a little bit different, but I got some buddies coming, and so we'll do a little bit more traveling. Hopefully we'll make it out to some other places. So let's see.
No, definitely. And my advice to you would be just sort of take your time and enjoy the moment. Enjoy each and every second passing moment. Don't feel obligated to go out and travel for the sake of traveling. I will say this. I think my biggest point of emphasis down here was to really develop a lot of connections in my city. I did that. I built a lot of good friends. I had a very busy dating life down here, and I still kind of do. Coming down to time is winding down. I have 2 weeks left here, so why spend And by the way, it's very expensive to go from city to city in Brazil. That's a well-known fact. There's a lot of Brazilians that have studied abroad in Europe, and they say something along the lines of, it's a lot cheaper with Ryanair and EasyJet to go from city to city, or through a cheap bus or cheap train. But in Latin America, it's a lot more expensive to go from city to city, country to country and whatnot, whereas it can be done on the cheap with all the services and infrastructure, with the infrastructure and the services provided in Europe,
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Wow, that would explain why we don't have there aren't a lot of guys in general on the forum who do country hopping in South America. That makes sense.
Oh gosh, it's expensive. Yeah, if I wanted to go from, let's say, hypothetically speaking, if I were to go from Colombia to Argentina, well, guess what? It's probably cheaper to get a flight from New York City to Argentina than it is from Colombia to Argentina.
Whoa.
So.
Yikes. Do you think... I know there have been some low-cost carriers that have been launched in South America, like Azul, which launched by the JetBlue owner, but I guess they haven't really made a dent yet.
No, and every now and then you can definitely get some really good deals with Azul. I recommend that. I've flown with them before. If I did do traveling, it would have been mainly for the girls down in Latin America during my stay here, or to see good friends. There have been some nature-based, traveling itineraries that I've had, but what was I going to say though? But yeah, that's a good low-cost carrier, but it can still be relatively expensive if you don't know what you're doing. Anytime from, I guess, December 20th on to the end of Carnival. Carnival Carnival sort of ends right before Fat Tuesday. So during that time, it's a real high season where kids are in recess from school. They have summer vacation, so going from city to city via plane can be very expensive during that time. the other expensive period would be July. July is when people have winter break, when kids have winter break. So flying from city to city, even within Brazil, can get very expensive at that time. And I don't know how some people do it, because there's a lot of rich families down here that will spend two grand plus for a round trip from, say, a Brazilian city all the way to Europe. So like Brazilians with the means will spend their Julys in Europe, and I just don't know how to do that, because I would personally not pay $2,000 for that round trip per person.
Yikes!
Yeah, thanks. I think my first time I went to Europe in 2009, I paid from Dallas Fort Worth to Athens Greece was a $500 round trip. That's when oil prices were low too. So. And the second time I went to Europe on a round trip, it was like $460 from Dallas Fort Worth to Madrid. So
nice. Yeah, there's definitely some deals to be had out there. Thank God for the traveler. What is it? I forget the traveler thread on the travel forum. There's some pretty good discussion about how to score some deals there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it was started by a guy named Mentavious. I can't pronounce his name or whatnot, but yeah.
Shout out to him.
Totally, it's a great thread.
Let's see. We passed the 30-minute mark here. I know definitely wanted to mark off some time for you to get your questions in on me. So, if you got any off the top of your head, go ahead and shoot.
Okay, definitely. I guess my main question is how have you changed as a person as a result of your time living in Poland? That's my first big question. How have you changed as a person?
Ooh, that's a pretty big question. How have I changed? I think I touched about it. I guess I touched about it in a tangential way in some of the other podcasts. I think the biggest thing that's changed about me is just by taking the plunge, by quitting my 9-to-5 job, which paid pretty well, good corporate life, the standard blue pill life, by cutting myself of that and then just diving into, living abroad off my investments. It's almost like approaching like a super hot girl where you're so scared of it before you actually do it, but then you actually do it and you're like, hey, that wasn't too bad. And so then you think like, oh, I could do this. I could do other things with this now. What else have I been missing out on that I thought was scary?
Right.
So you definitely, it gets you that abundance mentality that comes across not just with women, but also with how much more things you think you can do. Before I did all that, before I moved to Poland from the U.S. and quit my 9-to-5, I would never have taken a cheap bus that I bought online from Lublin, Poland to Lviv, Ukraine. Like, what the heck? Like, I'm going to take a bus in Eastern Europe? I figured that if you had asked me a year ago to do that, and it's like some unknown brand, there's no way I would have done it. I would have been like, you're probably going to get like shot or killed. They're going to steal your money. Who knows what's going to happen to you? And now I'm like, yeah, let's give it a shot.
Right. Wait, let me interrupt you for a bit. Was there free Wi-Fi on the bus? Because I know some buses, I think it's Polskibus, where you can get like free Wi-Fi from like different cities to other cities.
Yeah, Polskibus is great. You book it online. You show them the email with the receipt. Just show it on your phone, so you don't even have to print out the ticket. Just show them the reservation number. They have Wi-Fi on the buses. The Wi-Fi is spotty on the Polski buses, but I guess that's what you can expect it when it's free.
Right.
It's good for casual browsing just to kill the time on the bus, but if you're going to try and do any serious work on the bus, I would not count on a Polskibus Wi-Fi.
Right.
But Polskibus is also great because it's cheaper than the train within Poland. So it sometimes is a little bit longer, but Poland is small enough that unless you're going from one end of the country to the other, the Polskibus is usually competitive on time and more than competitive on cost. And most things in Poland, it's already fairly cheap, especially compared to, like, say, Germany, which is, by Polish standards, outrageously expensive, and yet is only, like, 6 hours drive away.
Yeah. I think the bus from like Berlin to Poznan, like Berlin, Germany to Poznan, Poland, is 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if you want to make a border run, if you're looking in Poznan, I mean that's your easy border run right there.
Right. Yeah. On the border runs, I usually prefer to have the stamps in my passport than try to keep the hotel receipts. In fact, I've never actually done a border run where I've had to show a hotel receipt.
Right.
I've known some guys. I met a guy here who's, I don't think is a foreign member, but he would do the border runs employing the hotel receipts, and apparently it went fine. And I know, like, Roosh has posted about doing the same thing, so I guess it works. But I guess I'll take the time bite just to have everything in one place.
Right. And I actually had another question for you. Do you feel, less pressure, or do you feel like less peer pressure to actually like go somewhere for the summer now that you're already situated in a great vacation town like Gdansk and so forth, where people will gravitate towards your area for the summer? Do you feel that's the case?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's one of the reasons I actually chose this place. When I left my 9 to 5, I was leaving in. I left in the end of June, so I knew I was leaving. I was coming to Europe in the dead of summer, and I knew, reading on the forum at least, that in the summer you're going to have to go where the girls go. You're not going to. University is out, so you're not going to be day gaming at an empty university. So you're going to have to go with the resort spots, and I figured, all right, well, let's see, where's the resorts in Poland? Do a little bit of Googling on the forum. Oh, it looks like it's Sopot. Well, guess I'm going there. And it actually Sopot did pan out for the summer, and it is a good place. The Tri-City area is a good place to be during the summer as well, for that reason, for guys who are wondering where to go in Europe. It is a good place because you'll get Western European girls. Some Western European girls will come to Sopot because it's a cheap beach destination. Warsaw girls, most of the girls in Sopot will be from Warsaw, who will be here for a week or maybe just a weekend. So it's great from that perspective, being right here, as opposed to, like I say, as far as I could, probably a less touristy destination in Poland would definitely be a tougher place, is my guess, because you're not if your city empties out in the summer, it's almost certainly not a good place in the summer.
No, definitely. And then there's that peer pressure to sort of like, go to another city, try to find lodging, pay for that lodging, and then afterwards, like, go back to your host city or go back to your base city or move somewhere else, So I think you're in a really good situation right now because you decided to settle in Gdansk Sopot right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy it worked out that way. That, if I had followed the typical forum advice, I probably would have chosen probably like a Lublin. Lublin was actually up there with my top picks of where to resettle in Poland. But I'm glad I didn't choose that because, during the summer, I'm sure it gets its share of tourists because Lublin is also a slightly tourist destination, but you're definitely not going to get as many of the let's say DTF tourists that a beach destination in Europe provides.
No, definitely, especially during the summertime, and you get so many different types of tourists in your backyard, and can't really beat that.
Yep. Has that been the same case for you in Brazil? Like, you're not too far from. Is your place considered a tourist destination, or?
I would say not. There's 3 million plus in my city, but it's a 3-hour drive or 4-hour bus ride from like really nice beach towns that get like super packed. So anytime from I guess like December 20th on till about Carnival. My city kind of empties out a bit, and a lot of people go to the beach. But I will say, like, when my city empties out, though, it's actually decent for day game, because you can walk to a girl and say something along the lines of, I'll say it in Portuguese first, it's, cidade está bem vazia, não é? And that's like, hey, the city's really empty, yeah? And then she'll laugh back and she'll say, oh, yeah, you know, the city is very empty right now, everyone's at the beach, and that's a great conversation starter, bullshit, and then you get a number. So, I mean...
Yeah, that's true.
That was definitely my strategy. And if I didn't have to go back home, like to the U.S. or to Asia during Carnival, I missed Carnival, by the way, which sucks. But that would have been my strategy, like all of February.
Gotcha. Yeah, that actually is true. There's a flip side to that. I remember forum member Bojangles, who's a pretty good British Indian day gamer. He's been here to Sopot in the winter, and he's written, and I've been to Sopot here in the winter, and there is also that reverse aspect. He wrote about where if the place is empty during the off season, which here is obviously the winter, then the few girls that are here, they'll have fuck all to do, and they'll be more open to whatever's up because they're just there out of sheer boredom. Shoot, I remember almost getting a same day lay in I think it was like November or December here in Sopot. You know, so it's right. Bitterly cold, and this girl from Warsaw is up here on a fairly nice winter day, and it's like, yep, she's got fuck all to do, and up shows me.
No, definitely, and I'm sure she would have those girls would have needed those warm bodies, especially with the wind chill right next to the the Baltic Sea.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's gosh, how's the wind chill out there? How are you managing with? How are you dealing with that during the winters?
Yeah, the winters here, especially in Gdansk, that is one negative about being this far north. In the winter, the sun it'll be pitch black dark by 3:30 in the afternoon.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so I remember for Christmas and New Year's I went to Paris to visit some friends. And Paris is still Northern Europe, and I'm there in the dead of winter. But when I got there, I was shocked that the sun would actually set at a reasonable time, which there I think is maybe 6 in the evening. And
right.
And Paris isn't that much further south than Gdansk, but
right.
I guess that the few degrees of difference at this point, this far north, make a good decent difference in the terms of daylight that you get.
Right. And
so the flip side is true here. In the summer, it's still bright. It's still super bright here. It's 7 in the evening here right now, and it'll probably be the sun will only set at 9. No,
yeah. Well, you dealt with the bad. Now you're dealing with the good. So enjoy that, please.
Yes.
Yeah, it's right now we're approaching autumn and winter here. Well, it is autumn here, so I think in Curitiba it's going to be pitch dark at around 5 o'clock, and that's going to be the case till around mid to late September. But I'm leaving in 2 weeks, so whatever.
Right. There's certainly people should not get the impression that all of Brazil is Copacabana Beach year round in summer.
No, definitely not. But. I like being in the situation that I'm in, and
gotcha.
I love my city a lot, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And so I did have a couple more questions. I guess let's try to make this as quick as possible. What are your favorite Polish cities, and where have you been in Poland? And the third part of the question is what do you like to go back to Ukraine to try that more?
Yeah, let me get the first question out of the way. Let's see, the favorite cities in Poland. I think if things didn't work out here in Gdansk, if I didn't end up liking it, I would probably try Bialystok, Poland. And I've written about that on the forum. Bialystok is a pretty interesting city. It's very difficult to get to for a lot of tourists, so it has that kind of isolation. You can't fly into Bialystok. You have to take a train from Poland. The train is even the closest city, major city, which is Warsaw, is still a 3-hour train ride away. So you can't just Euro trip into, or Euro jaunt, I should say, into Bialystok.
Right.
So that's a good city I found. Torun seemed like a pretty good city. It's a little bit smaller though, but when I was there, just as a tourist observer, because it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it's a great city just to visit for that reason. That was also a great city. Seemed like it had some decent prospects. But getting back to it, Bialystok is also good because it's definitely it's a smallish city, but it's also very dense, which in my observation made it good for day game. So it's not some Polish cities like Rzeszów is supposed to be fairly good too, and I've been there, but Rzeszów is more of a driving city, and so that's a little bit less conducive to game in general. Let's see. To get into the other question, would I go back to Ukraine? I would. I've got NomadofEUs in Kiev, so I got a buddy there. I've been to Lviv a few times. That definitely has some potential, and I'm learning Polish. And I was actually on my last border run, I was able to use my Polish to get around in Lviv because Ukrainian is very similar to Polish, and so that would be. If I went back to Ukraine, I would actually probably try Lviv before Kiev, going back to Kiev for that reason. One other country I would try is Moldova, specifically the city of Chisinau, just to see, because it's supposed to be the asshole of Europe, and so it'd be just interesting just to see what that's all about. There's some form
a close-up view of the asshole.
Yeah. There's some form information on it, but yeah, not a lot. Let's see. Did I answer all your questions?
No, you definitely did. And I guess like my other question would be, do you plan on having, I imagine this would be a little harder to pull off, but do you ever plan on having a foreign member out in Asia on your podcast? Yeah,
definitely. That would be awesome, to have one out there. I mean, you're the first guy from South America. We definitely want to get guys who are definitely outside the West doing this, and maybe even some guys in the West who are in some more odd locations that aren't really covered to be on the podcast. Because we just want to shed some light, an audio light, so to speak, on the travels that are out there that don't get a lot of media coverage, I guess, even in our sphere, so to speak.
Right, exactly.
Did you have any other questions about me, or did you want to stroke my ego some more?
Well, let me go ahead and say this. This is a statement that I'm just going to go ahead and make. I will say one of the things that I really do like about life down here and my situation and my logistics and whatnot is that I'm really close to nightlife. But as for my area, I feel like I live in an area or a city with just a lot of character. Where you have like young professionals, you've got families, you've got young couples, and you've got elderly people, like all living sort of in within the same vicinity. You could sort of go out, walk out of your building, go to a mom and pop's coffee shop or a nearby bakery, and then also be close to really great nightlife and restaurants as well. And that's one thing that you really don't get in the U.S. because it's either really like you have your area for young professionals in most major American cities, and then you've got your cookie cutter homes in the suburbs. And then old people live in, sort of their own little area, and it's nice being able to get interaction with people from all facets of life within a 5-minute walking distance. And that's one of the great special things about living abroad that that's hard to find in the U.S.,
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely.
Yeah, would you say that you're kind of in that same situation as well?
Yeah.
With regards to your neighborhood and just living abroad?
Yeah, in Poland, you're at least here in Gdansk, you're gonna come across a lot of different people just walking around. the city is definitely not set up like in the U.S., where, you know, in the center of the city is only where the young people live, and then the suburbs are where the families live, and then the old people live in Florida, the equivalent of Florida. No, the people are generally more interspersed, and so yeah, it's great to see all these different people walking around. And obviously, the public transit in Europe helps that a lot. You get to see, and it also, and the public transit is also a great venue for indirect day game here in Europe. Definitely, I've used it a couple times, and I've actually built a social circle based off an indirect approach on public transit.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Not just well, of course, you know, like regards to game, because I took an urban planning class, and my urban planning textbook, this is actually like verbatim what my textbook said. It said people that live in denser areas where everything is a lot more reachable by public transit or foot have better sex lives. That's what my textbook said. I mean, yeah. But apart from just game, I think it's just a great cultural experience to really, kind of be around that, And I think when I was growing up in Texas, my grandma from Taiwan would visit us every now and then, and she would sort of be, kind of bored out of her mind when she was like in Texas. But then when she moved back to Taiwan, she had a really active social life. She got to play cards with, a lot of her own elderly friends. Like she was always, she always had great access to, her friends. Friends of her family, relatives, and whatnot, and all of it was very reachable, by foot or by, bicycle. So, I mean, it's definitely a great cultural experience that I think, all people should, definitely experience, so.
Yeah, and that brings up a question that you asked me that I definitely want to ask you. How has living abroad changed you, especially in South America?
Okay, well, yeah, that's definitely a great question. I feel like, I've visited Europe quite a few times, and I feel like it's more of a great laid-back place where I've met a lot of great personalities. I will say in my area, though, living in Curitiba, it's kind of there are some great aspects of day-to-day life here. There's a lot of great down-to-earth people here that value, traditional family values and whatnot, and I think this is actually one of the first times where I might actually want to, maybe have a family or a kid down here one day because, of the way life is structured down here. But, at the end of the day, I do realize it's a very fun place with a lot of peer pressure. And if you want to, live the best life down here, you got to make money. So, living in Latin America can definitely be more expensive than, say, living in Europe where, the services and the infrastructure are a lot better. So, being in Curitiba has actually made me a more selfish and cutthroat person in another sense.
I see.
And I hope to bring that mentality back in the U.S. because I'll just, it'll help me blow off a lot of the bad influences. A lot of my friends that are just, playing in their kickball leagues and are exerting, really, here's the bad thing, a lot of my friends back home, I know I'm not a perfect person. I have my own, personality flaws and whatnot. But a lot of my friends back at home are exerting 130% of their energy into trying to preserve the status quo, and it's just not, it's not a very fulfilling way to live. And I kind of don't. I know they're going to be anxious to see me once I get back there and ask, "Oh, hey, how's everything down there?" But I just don't really. I don't really have any motivation to see people that aren't investing in themselves wisely, so.
Yeah, that brings up a good point. I remember my friend who had spent those years in Southeast Asia, when he came back, it almost felt like he'd been gone and had this amazing experience, and then when he came back, it was like all the people he knew had, they'd just been, frozen in time the whole time he'd been gone, and they hadn't really, by comparison, obviously, they hadn't really accomplished nearly as much.
Yeah,